Okay, so it really feels like the planet is doing more than just, sending signals lately, right?
Yeah, it's less like signals and more like,
Yeah,
well, like it's shouting, honestly.
exactly. Shouting. Every day there's another headline, another crazy weather event. It's hard not to feel like something fundamental is shifting.
That feeling, it's absolutely grounded in the reality we've been digging into. The Earth systems, they are under immense pressure. And those signals, they're urgent, they're all tangled up together, and they're coming from everywhere at once.
Totally. And that's what this deep dive is all about today. We've been wading through all this information that just lays it bare how deeply connected everything is, the environment, society, the economy.
They're all linked.
It's not just like separate problems anymore. It's this complex mess, almost reinforcing itself. This polycrisis, right? That's the term some are using.
Polycrisis, yeah. And that word is so important here. It gets across that this isn't just climate change over here and economic wobbles over there or social inequality is a separate thing. No, they interact, they feed off each other. They make the whole situation way harder than just one crisis on its own.
So our goal here is really to unpack that, try and figure out, okay, what is actually happening, why, and what are people saying about where we might go from here, pulling out the key things we've learned.
Okay, let's get right into it. And the most obvious place to start, I think, is with the Earth itself. The evidence just points to a planet under serious, serious strain.
Unmistakable, isn't it? The symptoms are just dramatic. And happening now, we're seeing these storms with way more power than before.
Supercharged storms, yeah. And mega droughts that are completely changing landscapes. Vast wildfires. You see the pictures, skies turning orange for hundreds of miles.
And then these bizarrely intense rain events popping up, too. It's like the whole system is out of whack.
Yeah, it really is. And the core numbers we found, well, they really drive this home. Global temperatures. They're already up, what, about 1.2 degrees Celsius higher?
Compared to pre-industrial levels, yeah.
And that 1.2 degrees, it isn't just some small number. It represents a fundamental energy imbalance in the whole system. That's what's driving these extremes.
And the projections where we're heading.
Well, the path we're on, it looks pretty stark. Without some major changes to greenhouse gas emissions, we're probably going to hit that crucial 1.5 degree mark.
The one everyone talks about?
Exactly. And maybe by the early 2030s, that jump, even though it sounds small, could push whole ecosystems over the edge. Think widespread coral reef death, even more brutal heat waves, stuff we might not be able to reverse.
And this isn't some abstract future thing either, is it? The cost is now. I mean, just in the U.S., we saw that figure for 2024, a record 28 weather and climate disasters.
Each one costing over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion. That's the climate hitting our wallets, our infrastructure right now.
Yeah. Directly. Yeah. But it's not just the climate changing. Something else that really jumped out is the shocking decline in the variety of life on Earth. Biodiversity.
Ah, yeah. That was staggering.
One estimate suggests global wildlife populations have dropped, get this, by 68% since 1970.
Wait, 68%?
Yeah.
Since 1970?
Yeah.
That's basically within my lifetime. Nearly 2/3 of the world's animals just gone. That number alone feels like a 5-alarm fire.
It's profoundly worrying.
Yeah.
And it speaks volumes about habitat loss, pollution, the impact of climate change, all of it together.
All connected.
And tangled up in this disrupted picture, we're also seeing new diseases, new pathogens emerging, which adds, another layer of risk and instability for all of us. We certainly felt that recently.
Definitely. Okay, so the first big takeaway here is the Earth is sending these really intense signals simultaneously. It's warming, yes, but it's also species vanishing, new health threats. It's all part of a system pushed way too far.
Yeah. Exactly. A multi-pronged environmental crisis. And that really forms the bedrock of this whole polycrisis idea we're exploring.
Right. So if that's the planet side of the story, let's pivot to our role in it, because it seems undeniably clear from everything we looked at. Human actions are, well, central to this whole situation.
Oh, absolutely central. Our dependence on fossil fuels, the way we consume things, the sheer amount of waste we produce.
Yeah.
These aren't just like side factors. They are the main engines driving a lot of these environmental problems.
The scale is just, it's mind-boggling. Globally, what was it, 36.8 billion metric tons of CO2.
In 2022 alone.
Yeah.
And that's just CO2.
It just shows that even with all the warnings over decades, the core driver burning fossil fuels, it's still basically going full throttle.
And you see the impact of these pressures really intensely where most people live. Cities. We saw how cities like Delhi, Bengaluru, Mumbai, They're dealing with severe air pollution, like genuinely health-threatening levels.
Delhi's air quality index, the AQI, it often hits severe or even hazardous, makes it literally hard to breathe. It's terrifying.
It is. And that's not just an environmental statistic, is it? It's a daily health crisis. And there's this difficult connection being made between that kind of intense urban stress,
Yeah.
the pollution, the economic pressures, and, well, really devastating social outcomes.
Yeah, that statistic about suicides in Delhi, 3,367 in 2022, linked, at least partly, to those pressures. It's heavy.
It's a very stark reminder that this polycrisis, it hits people deeply. It's not just about abstract numbers, and it's not just cities either. Rural areas have their own set of intense struggles.
Especially farmers, right? Dealing with crop failures, weather patterns that are just all over the place because of climate change.
Exactly. And the figures there,
Mm-hmm.
equally grim. We found data pointing to 11,290 farmer suicides in India in 2022. It just highlights how these big climate shifts translate directly into lost livelihoods and, frankly, despair in vulnerable communities.
Wow. And then there's just the stuff, the waste. Our consumption habits create these literal mountains of trash.
The UN estimate, about 2.24 billion tons of municipal solid waste generated globally every year.
2.24 billion tons annually. That
Yeah.
number, it just screams linear economy. We take, we make, we use for maybe a short time and then chuck it away. But there's no away.
There really isn't.
It just underscores how our everyday choices, all added up across billions of people, create this unbelievable cumulative pressure.
So I guess the second big insight here is that our human systems, how we get energy, what we buy, how we build cities, our whole economic model, they aren't separate from the environmental crisis. They're driving it. And in doing so, they're creating these intense social and economic pressures back on us. It's all one interconnected web.
Right, that interconnectedness again. So, okay, faced with this really complex, growing situation, what's the response look like? What are countries, organizations, people actually doing about it? Are we sprinting towards solutions, or is it more like stumbling?
It's definitely a bit of both, isn't it? Which kind of reflects how tough the challenge is. You've got major global efforts like the Paris Agreement back in 2015.
Where countries agreed to try and limit warming, keep it well below 2 degrees Celsius, aiming for 1.5.
Right. A really crucial commitment on paper.
Mhm.
But, well, the hard truth from the emissions data is that actually meeting that goal, it requires us to move at a speed we just haven't managed yet.
So it's like, we know we need to sprint, but we're maybe jogging or even walking sometimes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely bright spots, areas of real progress. One thing that's clear is renewable energy, solar and wind especially, they're getting much, much cheaper and more widespread.
Yeah, the latest figures show renewables making up, 30% of global electricity now in 2024?
30%. That's a huge chunk, and it's grown incredibly fast.
And you see countries really pushing this. India, for example, with initiatives like the Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana, aiming to put solar panels on 1 crore households. That's 10 million homes.
That's leveraging renewables at a massive scale. It's a really vital piece of the puzzle. The challenge, though, is just how deeply embedded fossil fuels still are in the system.
Still the majority.
Oh, yeah. In India, for instance, still 55% of energy coming from fossil fuels as of 2024. Getting away from that level of dependence, it's a colossal task. It takes decades, huge investments, major structural shifts.
It's not flipping a switch.
Not at all. And then there's technology. It always comes up as, maybe the silver bullet. We see things like drones being used in agriculture, helping farmers be more efficient, like that Tamil Nadu drone Needy scheme. That's cool.
Tools can definitely help.
They can offer tools, absolutely. But tech also has its own footprint, right? We saw mention of the energy demands of things like AI infrastructure. The U.S. is planning, a $500 billion investment in AI?
Wow.
But powering all that, it takes enormous amounts of electricity. And globally, a lot of that still comes from fossil fuels. So it's just a reminder that tech solutions aren't always simple. They have their own resource demands within this whole polycrisis picture.
That's a really important point. And looking at India again, the economy adds another really interesting, complex layer here. Campaigns like Make in India seem to be genuinely boosting manufacturing.
They really are. We saw that data about Apple now making like 20% of its iPhones globally in India.
Projected to be worth over $22 billion in 2025. That's huge economic activity, lots of jobs.
Definitely. But even that kind of economic success isn't totally secure, is it? There are always external factors, potential challenges like those recent tariff threats from the U.S.
Right, which could hit that manufacturing growth.
Exactly. It just shows how Even national economic plans can be vulnerable to global trade winds, adding yet another layer of potential instability.
And we can't really talk about the efforts in the economy in India without circling back to that social cost we mentioned, those overall suicide numbers for 2022.
1,071,000 total, and 72% of them men.
It just hammers home that while there's economic growth, these underlying social and mental health pressures tied into the polycrisis are immense. They need just as much attention as the environmental targets or the economic figures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the third key insight is kind of mixed. Global and national efforts are happening. There's real progress, like with renewables, but there are also huge hurdles, like kicking the fossil fuel habit and dealing with economic vulnerability. And crucially, all this is happening against a backdrop of severe social strains that need addressing at the same time.
It reinforces that interconnectedness again, doesn't it? You can't just fix the environment without fixing the economic and social structures that are both driving the problems and feeling the impacts.
Exactly. It all has to move together.
Okay, so given all of this complexity, the planet's loud warnings, our clear role in it, the mixed bag of responses,
Yeah.
what are the ideas about finding a path forward? What are the essential changes people are talking about?
Well, the consensus seems to be around needing fundamental shifts across several key systems. First and foremost, and this seems non-negotiable, is accelerating that transition away from fossil fuels.
Just getting off coal, oil, and gas and onto renewables like solar and wind as fast as humanly possible.
That's basically job one. Secondly, there's a huge focus on transforming our food system. Radically.
How so?
Things like embracing regenerative farming methods that actually heal the soil and ecosystems instead of degrading them, promoting more plant-based diets, and drastically cutting down on the truly shocking amount of food we waste globally.
And also supporting smaller farmers, right? And valuing indigenous knowledge about land management. Recognizing that traditional ways often hold keys to sustainability that big agriculture may be lost.
That wisdom is critical, absolutely. Then there's the whole idea of building our cities differently. Smarter, greener cities.
Meaning
Efficient public transport, sustainable buildings, integrating nature into the city, making them healthier, more resilient places, less draining on resources.
fewer cars, more green spaces, cleaner air. Makes sense.
And kind of underlying a lot of this is shifting away from that take, make, dispose habit, really focusing on reducing waste through better recycling, yes, but also lots more upcycling, more reuse, designing things to last.
Creating more of a circular approach.
Exactly. And there was another perspective woven through some of this that really struck me too, this idea of actually listening to the earth.
Ah, yes. What did that mean in this context?
It felt like it added a different layer. Beyond just policy fixes in tech, there was this powerful thought. In order to hear the earth, we must first love it. It kind of suggests that tackling this polycrisis isn't only about strategies and numbers. It might require a deeper shift in our whole relationship with the natural world.
Moving towards more care, more respect, recognizing we're part of it, not somehow separate or above it.
Precisely. Less about conquering nature, more about finding our place back within it. It feels like a really profound, maybe essential piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that adds a whole different dimension.
Yeah.
So, okay, stepping back from the details. The overwhelming feeling is one of urgency, isn't it? The clock is seriously ticking.
Undeniably. What we've seen reinforces that the Earth itself, the planet, it'll be fine in the long run. But our ability to live comfortably, safely, the way we've become accustomed to, that's what's really on the line here.
It reframes the challenge. It's not about saving the planet per se. It's about saving a livable future for ourselves on it.
And it's not like a race to some finish line. It's more about realizing we're heading down a dangerous path and we need to change course. A big change. Fast.
A major course correction.
Right.
And, it's worth remembering, humanity has tackled huge problems before. We've achieved incredible things when we put our minds to it.
We absolutely have. We have the tools, we have the knowledge, we have the capacity for collective action. We've shown that capacity time and again.
Put people on the moon, wiped out diseases, connected the whole globe digitally. Our problem-solving ability is immense when we choose to focus it.
And there's that powerful framing that kept coming up, that quote.
Uh-huh.
We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children.
That really lands, doesn't it?
It puts everything we do, right now, every decision, into the context of future generations. The consequences are direct and potentially irreversible.
It makes the stakes incredibly high. It's not just about navigating our present challenges, it's about the world we're actively creating or failing to create for those who come after us.
It frames the polycrisis perfectly, I think. A challenge for us, right
Yeah.
now, but also this profound responsibility for the future.
So when we put it all together, the intense signals from the planet, our undeniable role in causing the pressure, the mixed but real efforts happening in places like India and around the world, the fundamental shifts we know are needed in energy, food, cities. We pretty much know what's happening. We have a good handle on why. We have many of the tools, the tech, the knowledge. We even have this growing sense of the deeper mindset shifts required, like listening to the earth.
Right.
So maybe the ultimate question isn't really, can we navigate this polycrisis? Can humanity turn this ship around? But maybe the real question is, do we have the collective will to actually do what we know needs to be done?
That really is the question, isn't it?
That's the choice. For each of us and for all of us together. Something to really think about.